Hey everyone, welcome to episode 2, season 2 of Master Race Debaters. Joining me this week is the one and only Mista Mo from The Buzz. Remember Mista Mo from The Buzz? Yes. I'm very excited to have him on the podcast. He's done it all in this country, Gemini Awards, everything. And I'm very excited for him because he's, more importantly, because he's got a really philosophical mind. He's very deep. And I wanted to ask him the question. He's the one person I want to ask this question. Can you live in an openly racist society? I think the conversation might surprise you. It gets deep. I learned stuff in this episode, so you know me, know it all. Anyway, I just want to let you know that we recorded this episode January 25th, so you might hear things and subjects from that week, but it's still relevant. If you want to follow us on the web, we're at girlsnightoutpod.com, on Twitter at MRD Podcast, on Instagram at MRD Podcast, and on Facebook at Master Race Debaters. You can send us your comments, your question, emails. We're always looking forward to those at masterrdpodcast@gmail.com or gnopodcast@gmail.com. And please, if you're listening to this on iTunes, please leave us a rating, a comment. That'd be awesome. It'll help boost us up, and it's good for the podcast. So without further ado, here's me and Mista Mo talking about openly racist society. Here we go. So this week we all heard Trump with his. We didn't hear it. We heard from people in a meeting that he said that why do we get people from shithole countries like Haiti and Africa? First of all, Africa's not a country, and then he went on to say, why don't we get people? Why can't we get people from Norway?
Norway.
Yes, Norway.
Okay. I didn't hear it personally. I just heard it from a bunch of angry black people, so I'm taking their word for it.
See, that's
these guys would lie to me.
Does it anger you? Like I wasn't angry.
It didn't even bother me. I wasn't angry.
I didn't get mad.
I expect that from Trump.
I kind of
something nice. I'll actually be pissed.
Yeah, you'd be shocked if he's like,
out of character.
You know what? We need more black people in here. I was just I kind of like, I'm like, to me, I like Trump in that aspect. And let me explain, because before angry black people get even more angry.
Explain this one.
Well, because
justify this one, bro.
Because he is the head of the government, right? Like, he's the head. Like, you can't get bigger than that. And he's openly racist, which is like, yeah, that's institutional racism. Yeah. How did you feel about it?
I didn't feel any way about it. I heard it from someone. People were talking about it. I didn't hear it personally. I heard people talking about it, and of course, they're angry.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm not angry about the comment. And they're like, why aren't you angry about the comment?
Yeah.
I was like, well, what else do you expect Trump to say? He's been doing this from before people elected him.
Yeah.
And then you elect him, and then you're pissed that that he's saying he's making all these comments. But I think the majority rules on this one. They voted him in, and now you're shocked that he's saying all these.
Well, I think your point of view
crazy. I don't know.
I think our point of view is like the rare one. I think people are polarized with it. Like, people are angry that he has the fucking balls to say that shit, and then people are like,
I expect him to be angry.
How do you feel about like the debate?
But he's being surprised.
Yes, it's the being shocked. But how do you feel about the debate around whether it's racist?
Well, I had a debate on that too, because first when I was hearing the comments, if it was said by someone else, the argument could be that it was xenophobia as opposed to racism. You know what I mean? So, but because it came from Trump and he said other things in the past, well, we already know what he is.
Yeah, but
I can always make the argument that that was a statement made of xenophobia as opposed to racism. It depends on how you want to look at that.
Is xenophobia worse than racism?
Not that it's worse. It's just
different. It's not racism.
Like, let's call it what it is. Call it what it is.
Yes.
Like, did he make a racist comment or did he make a xenophobic comment? Comment. And in my case, in this case, I think it was a xenophobic comment as opposed to racism.
You're talking about technicality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, it's still wrong. It's still bigotry. It still falls into those categories. But that would be the only argument. But because it came from Trump, we already know where that's going. Right?
Well, the xenophobic. It's funny because the xenophobic argument is the more acceptable one nowadays. Like, it's racism is like when you talk about immigration and immigration policies. It's like, no, it's not racism. It's intellectual talk. It's policy. So like that. That's what the Republicans, I guess. I hate jumping on Republican and Democrat stuff because I think they're all horseshit. But that's the argument that it's wrapped in. It's like, no, it's the policy he was talking about. It's policy. We have to get back to policy. But the policy is racist in itself because it comes from, that you can't separate the body from the head.
Racist institution, yeah.
Yeah.
But it could have been a discussion over policy. It could have been. It's just he doesn't really know how to speak. So, but if people were working around Trump would know what he was referring to.
However,
he would know the language.
Not knowing how to speak is something you put on, I don't know, the guy that works at Tim Hortons. It's not the presidents of the United States.
Yeah, but again, as much as the man can't speak, again, they voted him in.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? They elected for the guy.
Absolutely.
So whether they elected a guy who can't speak and is actually intellectual versus the guy working at Tim Hortons.
Yeah.
They voted him in. You know what I mean? Like that's the guy that got the position. Well, it's like you got to kind of treat him like that.
He won consolation because he won because of the Electoral College, which was a system put in place by slave owners, right, to overthrow the common person's vote, just in case he didn't vote right. So yes,
true.
You're right. He did win, but it's all steeped in white supremacy as far as I'm concerned. But at the same time, I'm like you. I'm not upset. I'm not shocked. I'm like, oh yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I was expecting worse.
I expect worse, exactly. Because even under Obama, the system is the same. It's just now that
it's the same, right?
It's the same system,
different language.
If we got Hillary, it would have been the same goddamn system. It's just different language, exactly. How do you feel about like open racism, or at least living in like an openly racist society?
Versus it being covert.
Well, this is the problem I want to get into, but like. Yeah, I guess where it's like, because it is, how can I say? Because to me, we are in an openly racist society. What we're dealing with is how people are offended. So I guess because if you look at it from a white person's perspective, it's like, I don't want to be called a racist. And if you look at it from an ethnic person's perspective or a black person's perspective, it's like, well, why do I got to deal with you saying shit? Right?
I guess it depends on which type of racism we're talking about.
Yes.
Because you're right that it's openly racist if you're looking at it from a systemic point of view. Mm-hmm. That is correct. Is it openly racist in other areas, like say from an individual aspect? I would say it depends on where you live.
I was saying like from everything, like from systemic racism to hey nigger, how you doing?
All of it?
All of it.
Romantic racism, all of that stuff.
All of
it all together into one.
Would that make a better society? Would people be able to move forward?
This is going to sound. I don't even know how we would live without one.
Without an openly racist society, or without a racist.
Without living in a racist society, because we've never lived in any society that hasn't been racist. Mm-hmm. Whether if it's against blacks, if it's against aboriginals, if it's against, and the list goes on.
There's always a power structure.
I don't know what that would even look like if you removed it. That's what I know. That's all I know.
So even like superficial racism, because this is what I was getting to. Because
explain
superficial racism is like the H&M put up that kid in the monkey shirt, and everyone's like, well, that's not racist, and everyone just shuts the fuck up about it. Because really, that's
I have a debate on that too. I have an argument about that too.
What's your argument on that? Because
with that whole campaign, it's built on racism. I can't say for sure that the intention was racist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In that particular, it's only because of what that goes down before a product comes out. It has to go through a committee. It has to go through like the marketing department. It's got to go through all these areas. I don't think in that case they were being. It was intentional.
Yeah.
But it is built. But it. You can smell the racial ignorance out of that, because sometimes you come up with something, but you don't know if it's offensive to another group of people.
Well, a few years before H&M put out a T-shirt where they made up like a neo-Nazi band, like a rock punk band that was neo-Nazi, and they got in trouble for that. And they also got in trouble for using slave labor to make their clothes. So like intention, does it matter? Like
No, pain is pain, right? Pain is pain.
But that's what I'm saying.
Is like when everybody was going out and saying that this was a racist attempt.
Yes.
I would argue I don't think it was a racist attempt. Was the effect racist? It definitely was. Yeah.
But
you know what I mean? So it just depends. It's kind of like if I bumped into you on purpose, you'd be really pissed off at me. It's like, why'd you do that? You didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
But if I bumped into you by accident and you're like, yo, and I look at you, you're like, oh, I did it by accident. You're like, oh, okay, you brushed it off.
Okay, but okay.
So the same thing, but different. But the intent makes it adds so much oomph to that whole to the whole situation.
Well, when you look at the H&M thing, it's more like if I bump into you, but I bump into you every once in a while.
More than once.
Yeah, more than once, and I keep bumping into you. That's white privilege. It's the ability to not have intention to your actions that are racist. What?
It's possible. It's very well possible.
Well, this is what I mean. This is what I mean. Is like, because you're right. You might be right. Like, there might not be intention in that, but the fact that you don't have to look at your intention of it and just continue on with your merry day. That's why that's white privilege. You don't have to look at that as a problem, even though historically there's a problem in that.
Yeah, you don't have to. Yeah, you don't have to look at it.
You don't have to look at it. It doesn't affect you.
Yeah, because you can end up making the mistake again in the future. But it's like, oh, I'll play it as it goes.
I honestly
agree with that.
I honestly don't believe in conspiracy. I believe in like money, like people making money. That thing rings true to me. So just when we talk about systemic racism, it's more about making money. It's people trying to make money off the backs of other people.
In this case, though, with what was the shirt? What did it say on the shirt? The coolest monkey
in the jungle.
In the jungle.
Yeah.
What would be the motive behind that in making money? Why would that?
Maybe
who would sit there and say
maybe because it's so
this is going to make us a lot of cash.
But maybe it's so I don't like. That's what I'm saying. Like maybe it's just so. Like, it's such a dumb move. That's the problem. It's such a dumb... Maybe there's something subtle that we don't know.
Or was it, though? Or was it? Because, as you just said just now, is it something that we don't know? Because look at this from this point of view. I don't know what the demographics are in regards to how many people buy their product, how many black people buy their products.
Right.
Like, you have an idea of it in North America, right? You have a bit of an idea of that in North America, but worldwide. What if the market's only 1%? If the market is only 1%, I can see that being a great marketing move. Because once you put something out like that and you disturb the 1%, but the 1% ends up doing all the advertisements for you to the people that don't really care about your race, I can see that being a good move. Yeah. On their part. I'm not saying a good move.
No. We're talking outside of this. You and I are talking outside. You don't have to say that. Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with you. If that's what I'm saying, I don't like.
But the other way would be a dumb move. If the demographics are really high, and then you just ruin that market. Yeah, because that's a terrible move.
I'm looking at it from my perspective. We're like, oh, that's fucking racist. But what if it's like there's a marketing thing that they know?
Yeah, what if it's a worldwide thing that they know, and we just only make up 1% of buyers of that particular brand?
Would it be better for you if it was just like, okay, yeah, we're open about this shit. Yeah, we did. We know that's racist, but because of blah blah blah. Would that make you feel better? Because then the craziness, the gaslighting is gone.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't make me feel better because. Here's the thing, too. There's something that we have a problem with when it comes to honesty. Mm-hmm. Right? And in a case like that, if they came out and said, "Oh yeah, we purposely did this," blah 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 blah, I don't think that would sit well with me either.
Yeah.
I'd rather you give me the lie, and I'll try to figure out on my own if it was the truth or not, because I'll never get the honest answer,
right.
And we'll never have proof either way. But if you told me the absolute truth, this is why we did it, and it was something I didn't want to hear, it would probably cause more damage.
It would cause more damage to you.
But yeah, so in terms of politics, I prefer that you go back to whoever, back to the drawing board, and come up with some kind of apology that's suitable to everybody. To be honest, that's what we're used to.
Yes.
I don't think we can handle the honest truth that there was something really behind that whole campaign that was racist.
Yeah, that hey, no, we're doing this because of this, and you're just like, what the fuck? To realize it.
I'd freak out.
It's easier to put it on a mistake. I think you're right. I think it's easier to put it on a mistake in one company and go, hey, as opposed to no, there's an entire demographic that wants to see that buys more T-shirts if that happens, like a giant populace. I think it kind of
we found it through our marketing campaign. that the majority of people that buy our clothing are actually racist, and they enjoy things like that would be disturbing. I couldn't handle that.
That's like when white people found out there's like neo-Nazis with Charlottesville. Like they found out this year that there's racism. It's like they fucking, some of them snapped. Some of them were like, "What the fuck?" So
what the hell?
I'm all
under my watch.
Yeah, no, like they look like me.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm for an openly racist society if. And this is an impossible stipulation. I realized this as I wrote it. But if everyone that wanted to be racist had to accept the fact that you might be called racist and not freak out, and that you would have to do some research on the history of racism, or like you have to understand the historical context of it, which is impossible.
That may be too much to ask from a racist.
That's too much so...
Especially with something that's built on primal urge, like that primal urge.
Yes.
And then now I'm asked to do research to prove that I'm a racist. I don't know.
Well, it's kind of the society we're living in now. Like, and so the thing that keeps people in order is shame and call out, which a lot of people are against too. Like, I was reading this article. They did two studies. One study was one without call out culture. What they did was, in Miami, they went around and they did this study where they're trying to get people to understand transgendered issues by relating to them. And so that was one study. They said that's one way to do it, and the other way to do it was they went to a New Jersey high school, and they took a bunch of kids who are influential, and those were the kids that could call out the bullies, not the teachers or the principals. It was their own peers, and that's the idea. Is like basically what they're saying is, white people have to call out white people. Like, they're not going to listen to us. They get mad if we tell them shit. So white people have to call out white people, and that's an impossible task because white people in the fight for racism, their stake is not being called racist.
Do they have a problem with the word?
I think there's a stigma to it.
Or do they have a problem because there's a stigma to it. There is. I think I like the idea, if they're able to put it in place, of their own people calling out their bullshit.
There's people that do it.
They're not going to listen to us. They haven't listened to us.
There's people that do it. Exactly. They're not going to listen to us. I've seen it. I've been in arguments.
So there's that one woman. I can't remember her name. She does that whole workshop piece, the brown eye versus the blue eye.
Yeah, I forget her name. All right, Mo, Gavin. Who the person you're trying to figure out is Jane Elliott. She's an American former third grade school teacher, anti-racism activist, and she's best known for the blue-eyed, brown-eye experiment. Basically what happened was after Martin Luther King's assassination, Jane Elliott tried to explain to her class what discrimination's like. So in a moment of eureka, she came up with the blue-eyed, brown-eye experiment where she took half her class with the blue eyes and put them in the front of the class and took the brown-eyed kids and put them back in the class. She gave the blue-eyed kids privileges such as extra lunches and longer recesses, and she treated the brown-eyed kids badly. Halfway through the week, the brown-eyed kids were complaining naturally because why were they being treated poorly? Just because of the color of their eyes? And then at the end of the week, she switched it so the brown-eyed kids could feel the privilege. And that was how she explained discrimination to a bunch of white kids. And she's went on to infamy. She's been on Oprah. She's done a whole bunch of stuff, but she's done more than Oprah. But she teaches around the world the idea of white privilege. All right? Let's get back at it. But then at the same time, living in an openly racist society, is that the point? To reach out to someone and try to make them see me as a human? Or is it just like, oh, that guy's racist, I know to stay away from him?
It depends on what the two parties are trying to accomplish. Because, and I can't put it in words at the moment, but just say for example, I'm trying to. There's a project that the two of us have to work on. If you're blatantly racist, well, the end goal is not going to happen.
Yeah.
But if I know that if I know that you have certain prejudices towards me, but you're able to keep that in check because there's a system in place that says that these are rules that you have to follow ethically. We can get the project done. Even though I may know your personal views, but because we're now being presented by, say, some kind of a system or some kind of a policy of some sort, we can get the project done. regardless, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you feel about me. So it's about, can we stand together within the policy?
So yeah,
that changes everything.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think is it the idea of like, do we as a black person, do we expect people to think like us, or within the, like you said, within the system, work with us, as opposed to like, you don't have to like me, just let's be able to work together.
I do need you to follow policies and procedures while we work together.
So it's kind of like,
as long as we follow that. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
So you're kind of like we're talking about this. We are living in this. This is the society that you're talking about. So there needs to be some sort of. How do you keep people in check? Like, is it like, I guess you'd use a legal standard, freedom of speech and shit like that, But the
rules themselves that we created, that came from the same racist bastards, that keeps people in check.
Yeah,
to some degree. People.
Did you say the same racist bastards?
But overall, that happens.
Did you say it comes from
those rules?
Did you say it comes from the same racist bastards?
I think it's the same racist that created it.
Yeah,
right? Because all systems still come from that same group of individuals who have primal urges.
Yes.
Right. So you're still going to get that anyway. But because we've recognized the damage that some of that stuff has caused, we got to put rules in place so that we can just so we can accomplish initiatives.
Which brings,
if you know what I mean.
Which brings us back to Trump.
That's why.
So go ahead.
Now, what about Trump? About Trump?
No, go back. Go say what you were going to say. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, sorry. So I was just saying that by having these systems in place, we can get the task done. Mm-hmm. Right. So that's why I find the beauty in systems, because the systems themselves aren't real.
Yeah.
It's what we actually put into it. So if you get a group of people, and the people that you brought into creating the system represents groups. So so you bring in diversity into at the tables where we can come up with rules and regulations so that people don't feel discriminated against. People don't feel, and the list goes on. People aren't harassed. Mm-hmm. People aren't discriminated against based on their religion, creed, sex, blah blah. The list goes on. Which things can move forward. Sorry, go ahead.
So, which is why we have laws, right? But on some level, do you have to? This is why I go back to Trump. This is why I brought him up in the first place, because he's a person in power. I mean, as bullshit as he is, but he is a person in power who's one of these people that writes these laws.
Creates because he doesn't write the laws.
But he enforces laws. He represents a system that enforces the laws. He doesn't directly write the laws, but yes, he enforces the laws. He presents laws. He votes on laws. Do you know what I mean? He's the leader. He's the head of it, right? If his person, and I'm not saying it is, but if his bias is prevalent in the system, then the systems don't work. Not fairly.
To some degree, I think that's true.
So even the people.
That's true, because even if I worked for a company and we had these laws in place that were ethical, but the CEO of the company was a blatant racist.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would still affect the company. So yeah, I get that. Well, so that makes sense.
Is there do we need a level of shaming or call out? Because polices these people. This is what they're doing is to me. Whenever I listen to people talk about Trump, it's like on his pro sides they talk about how they love the racism, and on the other side they talk about hating the racism, but they don't. There's nothing else much. There's nothing much more to it than that, and it's kind of just like, all right, let's get down to the real. What's really going on? So,
well, no, I believe there is a lot more to that, because you still have all that stuff in the middle. Mm-hmm. That we keep crossing on. So yeah, you have the two extremes, of course. Yeah, but if you look at everything that's in the middle, it may outweigh the two extremes.
Okay.
The two extremes are the most obvious.
So what's in the middle?
All the other. Have you ever met a person who? Because I have to keep going back to individuals. But have you ever met a person who is he's a good guy? He's a good guy, but he has certain flaws. Mm-hmm. He has certain beliefs that may not support your own.
Okay.
But he's not far to the right.
Okay.
He just has he's like a mixture of he has ethics, he has morals, but he has a problem with immigrants.
Yeah.
On some level, he doesn't hate immigrants. He works with them, but he has his opinion about certain immigrants.
Okay.
So he has his opinion. You don't agree with him, but he's still good enough for you to have coffee with. You can have a conversation with the guy. It's just when those arguments comes up, you guys don't agree.
Yeah, you don't.
But he's not so far to the right where you can't hang out with the guy.
Yeah, you can't be. Okay, yes.
Right. So, you know what I mean? So like you have the two extremes where just total two extremes, far left, far right, and you have all this stuff in the middle that I think majority of the people, at least the average of people, fit into.
They fit in the middle.
And they all vary. That's why it's hard to narrow down, because they vary. Like, you can meet a Klansman, and the Klansman, because what I realized, too, when it comes to, like, say, the KKK, they don't all agree. They have different opinions. So you have Klan members they hate black people, and they don't want black people at least in this country, in North America. But you have other Klansmen where they claim they don't actually hate blacks. They just have a problem if blacks are taking their jobs.
Yeah, but
at least the ones that are preferable to them.
Is that just their PC way of not?
These are still extremes. Yeah, but I'm just using that as an example that they don't all agree, right?
Yeah, but I mean, like, the language is very, like, again, that goes back to is like, okay, well, that's, white people's, that's white people's take on racism is I don't want to be called a racist, because it's not a slur, but they think it's a slur. It's more of you're like a jerk. Right? Like, it's being called an idiot or an asshole.
Some white people don't want to be called a racist only because their definition of what a racist is. Well, and some of them are just saying that's not what I am.
Yes, they're terrified of that word.
Because when we say racist, it sounds like we're putting everything under the same umbrella.
Exactly.
But I think some of them are just saying what you're calling a racist is not what I am.
Well, I also believe like the idea of racism and racist to a lot of white people is like it's almost biblical. It's like good and bad and evil. And if I have racism in me, or if I'm a misogynist, I have that in me, I have those problems, that makes me a terrible person. When in fact it doesn't make you a terrible person, just it's a human flaw. But they don't like I agree, yeah. Like I grew up in a house where we talked about race all the time, like just regular. You talked about race. Yeah.
See, when we talk about the word racist, we all have that.
Yes, everyone has.
Every human being, everybody has that. I think it helps if the person who's calling out racism addresses his own. Before the person says, okay, I can identify the flaws that I have within myself. But if we don't call it out in ourselves, we're not putting anything, we're not taking any sacrifice, we're not putting anything forward.
So it's a matter of...
That could be it in some cases.
It's a matter of the language with these people. It's a matter of talking to them in a way they understand, because their needs
not necessarily in the way they understand, and what they identify with. Because if a person is called a race... Here's the thing. If you call a person a racist... Yeah. Everyone has either the broad definition of what racism means, or they're looking at their own individual definition of what that means to them. Yes. Right? But if you say that you have racist tendencies, it could change everything. So you're not a racist, but you do that thing that's I find to be very racist when you do blah blah blah, and you're like, oh shit, you know what, I do that. How should we? But at least you're not calling me a racist. You're just saying I have racist tendencies. Yeah, I think that's different.
That's I read in the article. It's the separation of your actions from your person.
So your actions from the person.
Exactly.
Because by you calling me a racist, you're saying the person, the ego that I am, is a racist. Yes. And I may argue with that. So no, that's not me at all.
No. Yeah.
But if you start breaking the down, being very specific. Oh yes, you know what? I am very racist when it comes to things like that. Mm-hmm.
It's really is the language. I mean,
it's the language.
It's very important, but it is the language. But like, can we, when it comes to leaders and politicians, can we have that kind of empathy? That kind of like, hey, let me look at you from a different perspective. Like you know about this Lynn Bayek. She's from Ontario. She's she just got kicked out of the Conservative. She was too racist for the Conservative. It's footnote time. All right, this one's a bit complicated. Lynn Bayek, a former Conservative Canadian senator. She was in Parliament arguing the benefits of residential schools. We talked about residential schools in earlier episodes, but just as a bit of a recap, residential schools are basically schools that the government used in Canada in the early 1800s to 1996, where they kidnapped Native kids and raped them and murdered them and hid all evidences of it, and it just came out. We had to pay off a lot of the victims and the victims' families. So anyway, she was arguing in Parliament that that there was benefits to these schools. And then to add more, which is basically saying, the gas chambers, the knobs worked pretty good during World War II. Anyway, to add insult to injury, on Tuesday, January 2nd, 2018, Lynn Bayek posted in her parliamentary website approximately 100 letters from Canadians in support of her position on residential schools. While the vast majority of letters focus on the history of residential schools, other letters contain comments about Indigenous Canadians in general. One of these comments stated, and here's one of the letters, "I'm no anthropologist, but it seems very opportunistic culture substance hunter/gatherer seeks to get what they can for no effort. There is always a clash between industrial/organized farming culture that values effort as opposed to culture that will sit and wait until the government gives them stuff, meaning immigrants be lazy. Or in this case, First Nations be lazy." It's lazy. It's the comment is lazy. There's no research, and there's no account for history and the effects on the present. All right, let's get back at it.
But is she a racist?
Yeah, I would say she is. I would say she, deep in her heart, I think. Well, I can't judge who she is as a person. I don't know her, but her actions are racist. Her actions are promoting a group of people. She's now saying that she's freedom of speech fighter. It's odd how they're always freedom of speech, but yeah, she her actions definitely are racist actions. Her personally as a racist, I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked if she was. I mean, what do you think?
I wouldn't be shocked either.
Yeah,
but by a person having more empathy.
Yeah.
And looking at the situation, I think a person with empathy, with a lot of empathy, can look at that and isolate it. Well, she should be punished for what she said.
Yeah,
there should be a consequence for that. But does that make her? Does that make up of who she is, a racist person?
Again, I think it's also the job that dictates her race, her level of racism, or if she isn't because if she was just if she was like working at a fucking factory. If she's working at a factory, that's one thing, and she had those opinions, I could go, oh, this is an ignorant motherfucker, right?
Yeah.
But if she's an elected official paid to represent everyone, like, how can I separate? Like, if I'm in front, like, a year ago, we had a judge in Hamilton who came to court with "Make America Great Again" hat. He thought it was hilarious after Trump got elected. And he got in trouble, and then rightfully so. It's like, well, if I'm like a fucking brown person in front of your court, and you're promoting a president who's xenophobic, who's trying to start a Muslim band and build a wall, and you're Canadian, like, what the fuck is your stakes in this? Like, you're supposed to be not biased.
I believe there should be consequence for things like that. If you're a person of power, if you're an elected official,
you represent everybody.
But when it comes to the person, can I judge the person and say that's what that person is?
Well,
I don't know the guy. I don't know the judge. He probably could have worn that hat because I think there's more than one reason.
He said it was.
Was it responsible? I think it was irresponsible.
He said
to do that.
He said it was funny. It goes back to the H&M thing.
He may have found that funny.
But it goes back to the
I agree.
Yeah, but what's funny about it? Like, Mo, what's, like, honestly, like, I completely. What's funny about it?
I don't see where there'd be any humor in that. Unless, but from the inside, here's the thing, because the thing is, there's so many different perspectives on that. There's so many different perspectives. Now, if I put out other perspectives, they may come off as sounding unpopular.
No,
but there are other perspectives. But because in this case, it's easier to judge and say this is what he was thinking. When I don't know that's the case.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean? Because just because he's wearing a hat doesn't mean he supports it.
Yeah, but saying it's like we give the excuse of ignorance every single time. Every single time this happens.
Well, I'm not saying making up excuses.
Yeah.
I'm not even saying the guy should keep his job. I'm not even saying that.
No. What I'm saying is, like, the intention.
The person should pay consequences for their actions.
But we keep saying, like, okay, well, they're not. And what I find is that, okay, we live in a white supremacist society. We live in a society that is white dominated, and it's like just That's what it is. It is.
But I'm not even saying that they're not. I'm trying to keep more of a neutral ground. So because if I look at things from a neutral perspective,
yes,
I can have more clarity.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
As opposed to choosing, you know what I'm saying? Instead of choosing a side and fighting to the death for that side. You're trying to
because
once it Go ahead.
No, you're trying not to put intention. You're not trying to put the intention on people. You're trying to be like, well, yeah, I don't know I don't know if they are racist. Their actions,
I don't know what the person's
are.
actually thinking.
Yeah,
but if their action affects other people in a negative fashion, there should be a consequence for that, right?
I think.
But at the same time, as I do that, I'm just saying, as I do that, it could be done. It could be done in a way where, yes, there's a consequence for this, but can I understand what that person is going through after making such a comment? Because people say stupid things all the time.
Yes.
And sometimes you say things because you really don't know what kind of effect it's going to have on other people until it's done. Once something is done and we're not involved in the action, we can always come back and judge and say what the person did was very stupid. But what is it like to be in the moment when you do something out of randomness where it has such a negative response on whatever the matter is, right?
I see what you're saying. I think there's. I agree to a point to what you're saying, but there's also a level of like when you look at this judge who put out this hat, and you look at the woman who put out those letters. She's trying to appeal to certain people. She's trying to appeal to. Trump is trying to appeal to certain people and natures in certain people. I'm not saying those people are that, but they are appealing to a base. They're going for specific market. That guy put his hat on, that Make America Great hat, because he knows it pisses people off. Whether he knows why it pisses them off is irrelevant, but he knows it pisses them off. But he doesn't go farther. He doesn't take it a step further to go, why does this piss off brown people? Why does it piss off brown people around me or white people around me? But why does it piss off people? He didn't go that step.
Something you said earlier, though. Where did he wear this hat?
In court. In court.
What do you mean he wore it in court? He's not even allowed to wear a hat in court.
He's a judge. I
only know this. I came out of court like 2 days ago, but so here's I know this shit.
You couldn't wear your pompadour? You went into court with your top hat and they're like, get out of here, Mo.
You gotta get out of here, Mo. No, I was actually there for jury duty, but
oh god damn it. And you still had your top hat and your monocle. He wore it in court, but he wore it because he thought it was hilarious because he thought it would piss people off. Because he looks at people, he looks at people like, oh, they're snowflakes. Look at these snowflakes. So they're weak. They complain and they're blah, blah, blah. But they don't go a step further and go, okay, why does it bother them?
We're assuming that's what he was thinking, though. We're making an assumption that's what he was doing. We actually don't know.
I made a leap from what he said. He finds it funny.
Yeah, I hear you.
I'm making a leap to why does he find it funny? Excuse me, why is it funny? Why would that be fun? Why would you wear a hat that says "Make America Great Again"? Like, why?
Yeah. And I would keep asking that question. Why did you think that was funny?
Why? Yeah. Why would you think? See, you're there. I'm like, oh, because you like triggering people. You like the idea of fucking look at these. Maybe, and I'll give him this. I'm giving.
He may actually find that statement funny.
But I'm giving him
Make America Great Again.
I don't think it was that. I think because I'm wearing the hat because no, he wasn't on that side of it. The way he was in the article, he wasn't on that side of it. I think this is stupid. I think it was an ironic hat. It was. I find the reactions of people funny. My problem with that is like, why do it's? I don't even think he might not even know why people get upset with it. Like I believe he doesn't. I believe he doesn't put that much, which goes back to H&M is like, okay, you got white privilege. You don't have to know why that bothers you.
Too. Yeah, he probably doesn't know.
He doesn't know why it bothers people. But he does it.
I do get that point.
Well, this is my problem with openly racist society is it's like, okay, I'm going to say some shit or I'm going to wear blackface or I'm going to do some shit and then be upset that you're upset about it because like, what the fuck? It doesn't affect me. Why would it affect you?
I think it goes deeper than that, though. Mm-hmm. I think it goes deeper because it goes right back to the lack of empathy, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Nobody would know. Nobody would know how deep that would go unless you're the person who's the victim.
Well, that's what I mean.
You know what I mean? Like the blackface. Yeah, I hear it.
That's what I said. It was like white people's investment in racism is not being called racist. But then people hate shaming.
And rightfully so, right?
Yeah,
When
rightfully
you're
so.
shamed over something, that never feels good.
And it never does.
Be the guy called out over something.
And it doesn't help anything. It really doesn't. It's just you just make someone fucking more pissed off at you, and then they get a gun.
Well, you know what? It could, though. It could. It depends on how you look at it. Does it help them? Does it help the person internally? No, it doesn't. Does it create some form of order that helps everyone else? I think it can.
Yeah.
Because there's things that we don't do now because you wouldn't want to be shamed if you did it in public.
I wouldn't even. I think that people who serve the public shouldn't. If
some of the higher standards.
Yes, if we have open racist society, look, I'll deal with fucking Joe Blow, whatever. He wants to dress up as fucking blackface Mr. T. Go ahead, dude. I know to avoid you.
Blackface Mr. T.
I've seen it.
That's a funny visual.
I've seen it. I went to a toy store. A guy showed me in Hamilton. He's, hey, I dressed up as Mr. T last year, and he showed me. I'm like, oh, you dressed in blackface. He did.
Oh, he needed your approval. Shit. That's the worst.
And what do you do?
Here's the thing. I grew up in the 70s.
Yeah.
And all I remember in my childhood is blatant racist shit. Like I'm talking about the part. We've talked about the shit before, right? Like you guys traumatized me. Like being thrown in the mud, beat up in the mud and shit. And being called mud person and all that stuff. So when people talk about blatant racism, my first thought is let's not deal with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even up to like the whole, like even being in the comedy circuit and the shit that comes out of there, and I'm thinking about all the like death threats I used to get from white people and stuff like that. Like stuff like that is disturbing. So
do you think there's an element of because people are trying to make it or trying to move forward? There's an element of what's that? That syndrome where you sympathize with your captors. What's it called? Stockholm syndrome. The definition is feelings of trust or affection felt in certain cases of kidnapping or hostage taking by a victim towards a captor. The origin, 1970s, with reference to a bank robbery in Stockholm, Sweden. Let's get back at it. Is there a level of Stockholm syndrome with some of us, like where we're just like, no, it's fine.
Like, no, I'd say that's possible. That's very possible.
Yeah.
So you just deal with it because it's the safest. It's the way that you're going to survive. It's your best chance of survival.
Yeah.
So all you can do at the end of the day is forgive it, ignore it. I'd say that's very possible.
Yeah.
Because that happens with abuse victims all the time, right? So that makes sense. So like on a social level, on a social scale, yeah, I can see that being the case.
You know what I loved about this conversation? We really didn't go anywhere. I mean, we did travel. It was great. It was awesome. But, like, you said your point at the beginning of it. I said my point at the beginning of it. It's kind of the similar point. Because you're saying that I couldn't see a society where that could happen. Where you've lived so long. We've lived so long with racism. You can't see it. It's so in the bones.
See it any other way.
Yeah, it's right in the bones. And then my thing is like, yeah, I can live with openly racist society if people realize where their racism comes from is never going to fucking happen. It's never going to happen because that is the frustration for me because people think I'm very emotional when like with the H&M stuff comes up. People think, oh, you're like I had a dude trying to call me out and say like, oh, well, what are you going to do? What do you protest? You're getting upset and what do? You don't protest. And I'm like, like, I'm not upset about it. I'm just saying that to sit there and say it's not as bad as slavery is bullshit. Like, you can't determine what's racism is worse or better because people are getting shot because of images of that. The idea of
this is also a product of slavery.
Exactly.
Even way before that. So, like, people have to walk in these shoes to really understand the effects that racism has on people of color.
Well, that was my point.
Not just people of color, but because I'm not just talking about racism, I'm also talking about
misogyny,
homophobia, talking about sexism,
classism,
all that stuff, right?
All of it.
Yeah, it has an effect on everybody.
Well, that was my point with these people. I was like, well, you look at like Darren Brown got shot because the cop said he looked like a beast coming at me. The beast thing comes from the fucking the monkey thing. That all comes from the same shit. We were dehumanized, and you could justify incarcerating or killing someone when you take away their humanity, which is what the monkey thing is. You're taking away someone's humanity. Mm-hmm. So, like, yeah, but At the same time, that's the thing that bothers me in openly racist society is that I'm going to have a lot of conversations like, well, do you know where that comes from? And people are like, well, you need to fucking stop being a snowflake. Okay.
And it also depends on when you have these conversations.
Yeah.
Because I don't know when you have these conversations with people, right? But I know guys.
All online. The best way to have a conversation about race.
So that makes sense. That it should be out in that form. Yeah. But I know guys where they're friends of mine, and they're activists in different fields, right? Mm-hmm. And as soon as you hit them up online, you're like, hey, what's up? You're good, and you say something like, could be anything. Like there's one case where I can't even think of the situation, but there was a case where you could tell it was just a social conversation. But as soon as I said something, he finds it as a window to spit out his shit. And I'm like, this is not the time and place, bro. I just want to say, hey, what's up? Happy birthday, bro. That's it. Like,
happy birthday. You know what else is not happy? You know what else is not happy is the environment. It's how it's being torn apart.
And black people ain't happy because you know what's been done to them, like that kind of thing. It's like, yo, buddy, this is not the place.
Just not the place.
You know what I mean? It's not the time and place, bro. Like, you know, so it's like things like that where it's like, well, but you must in a form where
you're not a small talk.
Say someone's responding to a post, that makes sense, right?
You're not a small talk guy either.
People are responding to that. Right?
You're not a small talk guy either. So you must be around a lot of small talk, non-small talk people who jump right into it. Who are like I'm a type.
Yeah, you know what? You're probably right. Yeah, I probably have that group of guys because I'm not a small talker.
No,
they just jump right in and like, yo.
Yeah, my conversations with some people just
a little bit.
All right.
It's very interesting, though.
Yeah,
how some of this stuff can go down.
Yeah, especially online, you're not face to face with someone. It's the worst way to have.
Oh yeah, everything can come out, right?
Yeah,
because he's not being judged the same way. He's not going to be shamed the same way. So all that stuff, when you can't see someone, you don't know what a person looks like. All that stuff could just come right out.
So you agree that
deep inside go ahead.
You agree that we need some level of shaming. There needs to be some level of we need a level of.
Well, we do it. We do it as a society anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anytime we don't approve of something, we shame them.
Well, I mean, yeah.
But I do question why we shame people, though. Because I think we also shame people because it distracts us from what we're thinking and what we're feeling. Because we're probably feeling the exact same thing.
Okay.
That we're shaming that person for. Because I believe that everything that we shame someone for is also a reflection of ourselves anyway.
So it's what we see.
I don't want you focusing on me. I'd rather focusing on the guy who said it.
So it's what we see in ourselves is what we see in that person.
I think every time. I think it's just a mirror.
Huh.
Every time. And I don't need you focusing on me because I've done some real fucked up shit. So let's focus on the guy who wore the hat saying let's make America great again.
Yeah.
Let's focus on that guy.
Well, it's a target, but it's easy. It also goes, when you see like those priests who are like fucking so adamant about getting rid of homosexuality and they turn out to be gay themselves. It's like that. It's the same. It's that argument.
Yeah, it goes right back to what they call the dark shadow.
The dark shadow,
right? And every human being has a dark shadow.
Huh.
So, like as you said, it could be a priest who's preaching against homosexuality.
Yeah. But
he's repressing homosexuality. Happens all the time. And if you take any group of people and just look at what strongly triggers them, and you'll find that with a lot of these people, I shouldn't even be saying these people because that includes me, it includes all of us, right? That when you're triggered by something, there's a reason why you're triggered by it, and the reason why I say you could be triggered by that. Just say, for example, it's let's say just trying to think of it. Let's say if it's pornography or something like that.
Yeah.
In your childhood, you've been conditioned that pornography is terrible. And the ways that your parents were trying to show you it was terrible was very dysfunctional. So they caught you with pornography, and you were beaten for it, and you were grounded for it, and you were shamed by the whole family, and the list goes on. So you developed a condition that this is wrong. So anytime you see it outside of yourself, you shame that person for doing it. When meanwhile, you're repressing the same feelings that the urge that you have, that primal urge that you have towards pornography.
Yes.
Because you also have a group of people who see the pornography, but they're not as triggered by it.
Is that
because they were taught in a different way of how their conditioning was different in how they dealt with pornography.
Is that the ego? Is that the tree? The being built, being planted, growing in the backyard, like the ego, where you're just
So I'd say it is part of the ego, but I would say it's the foundation of that, which is the id.
Yeah,
and within the id is where all these urges come from, and you can come as a caregiver or a person of power or a public figure or a religious person, you can come, you can bruise the id.
Yeah.
And not allowing the id to mature in the way it's supposed to mature. So all these people that you see who are triggered, their ego has their ego. If you want to go back to the ego, it hasn't matured. It's been bruised and it's been stuck in that age. So just say, for example, just say you're 33 years old.
Yeah.
That part that's been damaged stayed at age 5. So you've grown. You became 33 years old, but that aspect of who you are stayed at the age of 3.
Oh, we see those people all the time.
Yeah, and it never matured. It never reached maturity. So you go out through life dealing with pornography, not realizing the whole time that part of you that was bruised at 3 years old when you were caught and you were ashamed. I don't know what I'm saying to you. I don't know any 3-year-old who's been caught with pornography. First of all, I'm just putting it out. I'm just saying.
It's like you don't know ages.
Like 3, that's way too young, right? But
you just don't know ages.
Let's go with 12. Let's go with 12. Right? So
the 3-year-old got with pornography.
3 years old. That's crazy. That's ridiculous. He's not even dealing with comic books yet.
You know, they're not even reading. And who's reading porn? You don't need to read.
Let's say 12 years old, right?
Okay, go to 12.
So he grows up,
yeah,
right? Becomes a mature adult, but that part of it at 12 years old never matured.
No.
So that always stayed there. So every time pornography comes up, he's triggered by it.
Huh.
And that happens with preachers, that happens with priests, that happens with teachers, that happens with public figures, that happens with the everyday person. Everybody has a trigger. Like everyone's got it. It just depends on what that is. And if you repress it way too long and you keep pushing that to the bottom, at some point that stuff has to come up to the surface.
What's the best way to deal with this kind of a thing? With the dark shadow.
This is where like therapy and all that stuff comes in. So psychotherapy and all that type of stuff where you got to deal with issues like that. But everyone has them. It's just some people's shadows are darker than others.
Let me propose this: we can have an openly racist society if everyone had psychotherapy to deal with their dark shadow.
For free psychotherapy that was through your what do you call it again?
Healthcare?
Or healthcare system.
Yes.
Healthcare.
Yeah, you
See, for a second, I almost forgot. I thought it was in the States. All right, I totally forgot what that was. Yeah, but if our healthcare system supported that. Yeah. Because we do need some kind of a thing like psychotherapy of some level. Yeah. That should be free especially for people who can't afford it, where they can actually deal with that type of stuff. Because we all have it.
So you think
we don't have the tools of dealing with it.
So you think psychotherapy would be a great way to heal a lot of what's going on today, like with people, and just talking about racism, with what's going on with this, like people can deal with, because when I look at it, like some people, like I was watching a lot of Trump videos today, a year later, because it's a year later that he was elected, and I'm watching, or a year later he took office, I'm watching a lot of videos of people like talk about like Mexicans and how they're coming in and taking their jobs because I don't have a job. I used to have a job and now I don't have one. It's like, well, you're putting your problems on something else. You're not taking responsibility for your own life.
You're not taking responsibility.
Right. And I think you're right. I think if a person like that got some psychotherapy, they'd have to, because it's hard to look at your own life. It's hard to look at you and
go. It's very hard to look at your own stuff.
Right.
Yeah, no one wants to take blame for anything that they've done. Something like psychotherapy would be, like, we had conversations before. Like, yes, I openly say, like, I tried ayahuasca. Like, I drank that stuff to deal with personal issues. And, and the stuff really works. Like, you really get to look at yourself and see for what you are. So when it comes to when people have conversations about the whole racism thing, I can look at it and say, well, you know what? Before I put the finger at anybody else, I can look at my shit. Yeah. Right, and also even as I look at my shit, I can also have empathy for those who have it. Yes. But they just haven't addressed it.
Yeah,
it's a lot easier because you can build more empathy.
You're looking at it from a completely different perspective. I'm coming from like anger. I don't know what's anger, but it's like I'm looking at a system that has told me that I'm wrong.
I wouldn't call it anger, but you're passionate. You're very passionate about it. And people have to be passionate about these things. Because if no one did anything,
then we're fucked. We're truly fucked.
We're fucked. We're screwed, right? Fucked, so people have to address these things, right? Yeah. But after they're addressed, what do we do with that? Yeah, because say you do address it, and someone says, "Oh shit, I have racist tendencies, or I'm a racist." what do I do with that now? Because you can't just wash the racism away.
Yeah, where did this come from? Why do I think like this? And it probably has nothing to do with race. It probably goes back to just like you said, something that happened in childhood.
I think it's but even then, when we talk about racism, I really believe that racism and all the other stuff are natural tendencies of a human being. Mm-hmm. It's just as you use racism, you realize that it causes damages. So it's okay. I'm not going to function as a human being or as a group if we keep expressing this form of power towards another group of people. So what can we do to make things better? So I think these tools are there for us to try to fix them in some kind of way, or to use them in a different, in a more functional way. I think when you look at racism, what we're looking at is a dysfunctional version of something that's innate within all human beings. Well,
that's what I've been saying. Everyone on the it's racism is not an evil thing. I think it's human. I think it's natural. I think it's a natural thing.
Yeah, it's part of the cycles of development. Racism falls into the category of ethnocentric. Yeah. So there's an ethnocentric period that all human beings go through. So there's egocentric, which is like the first one that you deal with when it comes to the self, dealing with selfishness and all that type of stuff. And then you deal with ethnocentric, which is about your family, your social circle, your ethnic group, your religion, your race, that type of stuff. And a lot of people are stuck in that second level.
Oh, shit. They've
never done. They haven't moved up because they've stuck in that level for whatever reason, and they haven't moved up the other stages because there's like 8 different stages. Yeah, and they're stuck at level 2.
Well, because like that, to accept it and go, hey, to move on. Yeah. So it's therapy. It's therapy. Therapy's the answer.
Therapy is the way. Therapy is the way. Like, it's something that everyone can benefit from. As long as that person, for it to work, the person has to be willing to start to address things that are
you can't kidnap him
or her.
You can't kidnap him
to make that work, right? Because the therapist can't just do all this stuff alone.
Well, you can't kidnap people and tie them in the basement and give them therapy.
No, you can't do it, right?
No, it doesn't work.
Do it. The person has to be a willing participant.
All right, Mo. I'm gonna let you go. This has been awesome. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, bro. My pleasure.
We'll do it another time. Master Race Debaters has been a production of the Girls Night Out Network and recorded each and every week at the Girls Night Out studios in downtown Hamilton, with new episodes appearing every Monday. If you have comments, questions, or topic ideas, you can email us at gnopodcast@gmail.com. And to continue the conversation, you can follow Master Race Debaters on Twitter and Instagram at MRD Podcast and on Facebook at Master Race Debaters.